What's going on, y'all? So if you watched my previous video, I went through my approach for mixing hip-hop vocals in Studio One. Now I'm going to show you my approach for mixing R&B or pop vocals. So as I said in the last video, singing and pop vocals are very different and when it comes to compression versus hip-hop vocals, because hip-hop vocals aren't that dynamic where singing vocals are. And so I got a perfect example here. The person on this hook is Brittany Jones, someone I went to college with, and it's on, the artist's name is Tuck. It's on his album, which should be released this year, I believe. But I'm going to play you the hook here, and hear how dynamic it is, how she gets loud and then she gets soft.
King of the South.
King of the South.
Been a king of the South.
King of the South.
Still king of the South.
King of the South. King of the South. He is the king of the kings. He is our ruler. King of the kings. He is our ruler. This is his kingdom, the South.
And then here on the end of the last hook, you can hear as well how dynamic the vocal is.
He is the king of the kings. He is our ruler. This is his kingdom, the South. He is the king of the kings. He is our ruler. This is his kingdom, the South.
Okay, just to hear it with the track.
King of the South.
King of the South.
Been a king of the South.
King of the South.
Still king of the South.
King of the South. King of the South. He is the king of the kings. He is our ruler. This is his kingdom, the South.
Okay, so like the last video, as I said, my approach, the three-step process, the listen, evaluate, execute. So in listening to this, one, we see the vocal is kind of buried under the track, and as you can see, it's a two-track, and a lot of times two tracks are processed so loud that you're going to have to use some compression to help push that vocal out, to help it cut through in the mix, as well as EQ. As far as EQ wise, I'm not really hearing anything that's bothering me in the vocal, which is a good thing. That means it was recorded very well. You don't always have to EQ. But let's start there. And as I did in the last video, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to roll off the low end. Well, let's see how much low end we have there.
King of the South.
King of the South.
Been a king of the South.
King of the South.
Still king of the South.
King of the South. King of the South.
So you can see I have very little going on down here in the extreme low end, which means that either the mic pre that this vocal is recorded with was recorded with a high pass filter engaged, so it already cut out the lows, or the mic that this vocal was recorded with as well. They've had a high pass filter that was applied to it during recording. But since I do see a little bit there, let's see.
King of the South.
King of the South.
Been a king of the South.
King of the South.
Still king of the South.
King of the South.
I see some in the very, very low, around 20 hertz. It probably isn't going to be audible anyway. I see how low it is. It's registering all the way down. So I'm going to still let's use a high pass filter and cut that out.
King of the South.
King of the South.
Been a king of the South.
King of the South.
Still king of the South.
King of the South. King of the South.
Okay, so that's completely removed our low end rumble. I'm just going to copy that to this other track. Okay, so I'm not hearing anything that's bothering me frequency-wise. I do hear some high frequency harshness. And if the vocal is recorded too dark, I'd like to add some high end, but the high end on this is great, and that's just a part of naturally Brittany's voice is has a very nice high end to it. So I do hear some high end harshness, so I want to deal with that first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a compressor. Let's collapse these. Okay, actually, okay. So the compressor I'm going to use as a de-esser. I want to get rid of that high end harshness, some of those S's that I'm hearing. So first I'm going to do is isolate the S.
This is his kingdom, De-Esser.
Okay, it's mainly this S here, so let's zoom in and
King of the King, see it.
It's this S right here. So let's loop this part here. So what I'm going to use the Studio One compressor, and I'm going to turn it into a de-esser. And so I want to compress just that S sound, which is in the high frequencies. So to do that, I'm going to use a high ratio because I'm going to want a lot of compression on this. Let's start with 10:1. Let's start with 12:1. The threshold I'm going to bring way down. The knee, let's bring that down some little bit too. Give it a little sharper knee. Now, for this, the attack, I want it to be really fast because as soon as that S hits, I want the compressor to clamp down on that. So I'm going to, let's just bring the attack down to 3 milliseconds. The release, we'll leave it there. So to turn the compressor into a de-esser, we're going to turn on the internal side chain. So what this is going to do, the low cut here, as I move this up, the compressor will not see anything below this frequency. So S's are normally around 5K and up. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to loop that part that has this S, and I'm going to turn on the listen filter. So what this does is now it's going to only play back what the filter is listening to, or what the filter is hearing, which is going to be 5.31K and above. Now let's see if we can find that S. Move it up a little bit. Now you know you've gone too far because you'll stop hearing that S. It's still poking out. Okay, I think it's a little too far. Let's come back down to about 6K. You still want to get it to where it's still, where you're still hearing that S pretty strong. I'm gonna come back down to about 5K. Now you see down here at 3K, I'm starting to hear more of the vocal. I don't want that, so I'm going to stick with 5K here. And now I'm going to bring the threshold down more until I start to see some compression.
King of the kings, he is our ruler. King of the kings, he is our ruler.
Okay, so I'm liking how that's sounding, but it's removing too much of the S. I'm going to bring the threshold back up.
King of the kings, he is our ruler.
That's better. I'm going to bring it down just a touch.
King of the kings, he is our ruler.
I think that's good. So just to compare, let's take out, and actually what I'm going to do, because I'm going to put another compressor behind this to compress the overall vocal. I'm going to, let me first add this to the other one here. I'm going to rename these to De-Esser. Okay, so let's listen to it without the De-Esser now.
Is the king of the kings, he is our ruler.
And with it,
Is the king of the kings, he is our ruler.
actually I think it can come down just a little bit more.
Is the king of the kings, he is our ruler.
Yeah, that's still too much. So what I'm going to do, 'cause bringing the threshold down is giving it too much compression. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to back off the ratio. So I was at 12:1. I'm going to come down to 10:1.
Is the king of the kings, he is our ruler.
I like that. Let's take it out.
Is the king of the kings, he is our ruler.
And one more time with it.
Is the king of the kings, he is our ruler.
Okay, so I am happy with that. So let's move on now to some overall compression. So remember with the rap vocal, I controlled just the peaks. I'm going to want to do the same thing with this vocal. So the quieter parts I want to bring up. So I'm going to bring up the makeup gain for that. And let's see what we can start with here. So the attack time, I'm going to go to my normal starting point. This is 10, bring the release up to around 160. Ratio, I'm going to keep it at 2:1 for now. And let's see where my level is here.
Is the king of the kings, he is our ruler.
Looks like I'm going to be right around the -15. We can have the threshold here. So let's I'm going to adjust this so we're only compressing the peak, which this loud part here, I want to bring that down some, and you can hear the beginning of it.
He is the king
The he is kind of low, so I'm going to bring that up with the output gain. So we're going to add the track back in, and let's set this compressor.
He is the king of the kings, he is our ruler. This is his kingdom, the South. He is the king of the kings, he is our ruler. This is his kingdom, the South. He is the king.
Okay, I'm going to bring the ratio up to 4 so I can get some more compression here. The knee, because I want that loud peak to come down, to really kind of clamp on it, I'm going to bring the knee down. The threshold, I'm going to move up just a little bit. Let's see what the -18 dB will do here.
He is the king of the kings, he is our
Okay, I'm gonna speed up my attack here. It's gonna come down to 5 milliseconds and see how much compression we get there. So I've got in my head what I want this to sound like. So this is something that's important. You don't want to just start turning knobs. Then my process in the listen, evaluate, execute. After you evaluate and you can hear in your head what you want to do to it, kind of have a goal of what you want your outcome for the vocal to be, and then you execute by doing it. Let's see what we got here. Let's hear what it's doing to the end. Those are the one on the end is the loudest ones. I like that, but I want a little bit more compression. But I'm happy with where the threshold is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the input gain on the compressor, which is going to boost the gain going into the compressor. It's pretty much the exact opposite of the output gain or the makeup gain on the compressor. So I'm going to bring that up. Let's try 4 dB first, which is going to give me more compression without adjusting the threshold. Okay, I am liking that. So what I want to do now is I'm going to bring up the output gain so we can bring up the quieter parts. And I was getting 10 dB. I'll just start with 6 dB and see what that sounds like.
He is the king of the kings. He is our ruler. This is his kingdom. King of the kings, he is our ruler. This is his kingdom, De-Esser.
Okay, so I'm happy with that. I feel like it's a little too loud now, so we can take the output gain and I'm just going to half it and bring it down to 3 dB. And let's see what we got.
King of the kings, he is our ruler. This is his kingdom, De-Esser. He is the king of the kings, he is our ruler. This is his kingdom.
Okay, so I'm happy with that. You also notice that bringing up that output gain, I'm bringing up that that breathiness in the vocal as well as more compression. When you go heavy on the compression, it helps bring out that breathy quality in a vocal. Let's come back to this beginning part because the he is was low. So let's hear what that sounds like now. Let's actually play it from the beginning part here, and we'll just copy this over.
King of the South.
King of the South.
Been the king of the South.
King of the South.
Still king of the South.
King of the South. King of the South. He is the king of the kings. He is our ruler. This is his kingdom, De-Esser.
King of the South.
King of the South.
Been the king of the South.
King of the South.
Still king of the South.
King of the South. King of the South. He is the king of the kings. He is our ruler. This is his kingdom, De-Esser.
Okay, so I'm happy with that. So there you go. That's my approach for mixing pop vocals. So like I said, it's different than rap vocals. They are two very different things to mix. Dealing with compression and as well as EQ. With hip hop vocals, you don't want a lot of high end, but with singing vocals, you want to add high end most of the time. But again, only if it needs it. Like I said, that's my approach for mixing vocals in Studio One. As someone requested, focusing on EQ and compression. Let's say any questions, email me if you want to see me do any other videos or have any requests for videos. Email me as well. All right, I'll catch y'all next time.